business? So if there's no more new business.
I do have a point. Sort of going back to my favorite busing topic for the day, I guess. I'm trying to understand the decision-making process and how do we get to something that doesn't necessarily impact what seems like one school, children in one school. And if you've been on Plainfield in the mornings, it's not pretty. So I'm curious, maybe through the finance committee, but at some point, we need to look at this with more urgency than what we had initially anticipated. When we did the budget planning, had made certain assumptions. Some of them are not, falling in place as we had thought. So I'm curious how we want to deal with this, right? It's a fact. We've told parents, and obviously it's like less than a month before school starts. Beyond just the inconvenience, I think the sense that I'm getting just talking to people, reading the emails, is there is this sense of there are some favored students, families, call it what you may. The people that are paying the money, nobody seems to be caring about them. And I think we shouldn't, I would not want us to, even the perception that there is something like that, right? Because that's not our goal, that's not our intention. So I don't know what's the first step to doing that, but I think we need to kind of push that issue, expedite, better than what we had thought before.
Do you want, I was going to speak, but do you want to speak? Go ahead.
Sorry. This may also go back to something someone else said as well. My understanding, I believe, from one of the committee meetings, finance committee meetings, was the timing was such that people who had wanted to or attempted to sign up tentatively for subscription busing had done so, got a tentative warning letter, sort of depended on whether we had the capacity or not, and then followed, so they had the warning, and then more recently there was then the follow-up communication that confirmed we, unfortunately, as we thought, did not have the capacity. So I think the idea was that they had a chance to be mindful, and speaking of communication and the busing, I think that was actually the reason, as far as my perception is. In the case of courtesy busing, I think it would have suddenly been pulled from them without warning in that case, which is, I think, the reason why the difference between, and in terms of favoring, if I were just looking at this objectively, I would think we would be more likely to do something to favor the people who are paying if we're trying to favor anyone. So if we're not favoring those people, it's probably not the case that we're favoring.
But I think that's where the disconnect is, and it's you can call it perception, you can call it whatever. I'm just speaking from what I have heard firsthand, right? Everybody now in the district is aware that there is a group of parents, families that are getting this service for free. There is no stated criteria or reasoning, right? You get the point. There is no criteria established, there is nothing. On the other hand, there are parents who raise their hand and said, I'm willing to give you $1,000, please have this service ready for my kid because I really need it. And now, I understand the reality of the driver and whatnot, but it just seems like we are not doing enough for the other people who are impacted. And that sort of going back to the whole inequity argument, this is a glaring example. I'm just trying, I know it's a problem. I know, getting drivers isn't easy. I'm just asking, ourselves as a board, what can we do better?
Sorry. And I understand what you're saying, and I do. But I think the courtesy busing is part of a bigger picture, which is what we've discussed in finance committee meetings. We've discussed we need to do this. We're all very aware of it, and it was a big discussion during the budget season. So we are aware, but I think it's part of a bigger picture that we need to dive into more depth. We want to make sure that we do it properly this time. I think Robert made a comment at the last meeting saying, we don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it. We want to make sure we do it properly, and that's the plan. So, and we do have we're in a situation right now where we have an interim BA. So, you know, we have to also be mindful that these are discussions that need to be had with the new BA when we can bring somebody on board, and this plan needs to get set into motion.
And although it's not official, I've discussed and raised some issues on how we can get some, assuming we do continue at all with courtesy busing, what would be objective criteria so that there is equity? And that was discussed. Is it a plan? Is it in writing? No. But discussions have continued. Budget season's upon us. That is when it will be figured out for sure. Is in my mind.
Before.
Right.
I know
Right.
transportation said it was like get past the first couple of weeks
Do you
of
wanna
this
go on
school
that?
year. I said, during the meeting, it was my understanding, after we get through the first couple of weeks of school when busing is a little hectic, then that's like all in to be able to finalize what's courtesy, what is the like, I don't even want to use the wrong words, because what's the right way to put forth criteria for it, and that's what was committed to by transportation, and that would be brought